On April 3, 1994, around 3:30 a.m., the police were called to a shots-fired report at a home in Jefferson, Wisconsin. Reuben Borchard was shot twice with a shotgun while getting ready for church in his basement bedroom. His last words to his son before he died were, "I can't believe she would do this to me."
I didn't know Reuben very well. I worked with him and Diane at Schweiger's. He worked in the sample department and Diane worked in the mill office. But I saw her often because I had a typewriter and she didn't, so she would come and use mine all the time. And with me being new there, I would usually go to her to ask questions. She was actually a very nice lady. And Reuben, he would do anything for anybody. He was an excellent carpenter.
Diane Feister met Reuben in February of 1979 while working at Schweiger Industries in Jefferson, Wisconsin. He was a foreman and she was a secretary. Reuben was a widower whose wife, Susan, died in a car accident, leaving him with 2 young children, Charles, also known as Chuck, and Brooke. Diane had recently gotten divorced as well. They married in October of 1979, and 8 months later their daughter Reagan was born. Diane became a teacher's aide and hall monitor shortly after being married. Kids and fellow teachers alike described her as very kind and understanding. Her stepchildren, however, would disagree with that statement. In an interview with People, Brooke Borchard stated, "I remember in the 3rd grade when I wished they would get divorced because they were constantly fighting." Diane Borchard was very possessive of her husband. She did everything in her power to erase Susan from the family. She would get very angry if someone even mentioned Susan's name or told Brooke and Chuck that they looked a lot like their mother. In the 90s, Diane only got worse. Reuben could no longer take the constant abuse and arguing. He began dating a woman named Judy, and when Diane found out, she hired 2 kids at her school to spy on him and take pictures. On Thanksgiving of 1993, Reuben announced to his family that he was filing for divorce from Diane. He was awarded the house and custody over all 3 children. The court told Diane that she needed to move out by April 15th of 1994. Diane was enraged by the ruling of the court, so she began to plot her revenge. She turned to 16-year-old Doug Vest, who was one of her study hall students. She told him that Reuben abused her and she was going to lose everything to him because of the divorce. Doug felt her pain as his own parents were divorced. She promised him $20,000, her wedding ring, and a new car. Doug recruited Josh Yankee, a quiet boy he went to school with, and Michael Maldonado, who lived down the street from the Borchards. She gave them a $600 down payment and the all clear.
Diane Borchard was my study hall teacher in high school. I went to school with all of the kids. Chuck Borchard, Doug Vest, Josh Yankee were all in my grade. They were all great kids, just really good kids.
On April 2nd, Diane left town to go stay at Susan's parents' house, Reuben's former in-laws. Reuben thought that this was strange as Diane hated Susan and everything about her. He was also suspicious of the fact that she took Reagan and their dog Pugsy. On April 3rd at 3:35 a.m., Reuben Borchard was coming up the cellar stairs to get ready for church when he was ambushed by 3 boys who shot him twice with a 10.4mm gauge sawed-off shotgun. Chuck Borchard, who had been sleeping upstairs, awoke to the gunshot and raced downstairs to find his father slumped in a chair, bleeding. He was rushed to the hospital where he later died.
Imagine that once. Your stepmother hires 2 of your classmates, the kids that are sitting right next to you, that you pass every day in the hall, to kill your father, to leave you without your only blood parents.
Police investigated Reuben's murder as a John Doe case as they could not figure out who killed Reuben. They suspected Diane, but she had a clean alibi. It wasn't until September 28, 1994 that the case was solved. Doug Vest confessed to the murder and told police of who he worked with and for. He told them about the promise for the life insurance money, the ring, and the car. Diane Borkard was convicted of first-degree intentional homicide. She was sentenced to prison for life and cannot receive parole until she has served 45 years. Doug Best and Michael Maldonado were convicted of first-degree murder and were sentenced to life in prison. Josh Yankee was sentenced for second-degree intentional murder and given 18 years in prison. Raymond Craig, a good friend and attorney of Raymond Borkard, told People magazine that what made the crime so heinous was that it affected the lives of so many kids. It's unlikely the killers were the only 3 Diane solicited. It's likely others thought about it for a moment, rejected it, and replied to the idea, "I almost did the dirt's work. I almost did it."